I feel like we should start by explaining that we're in
Sean Diddy Combs' basement.
P. Diddy's basement.
It's like an SOS message.
Yes.
We need to start by telling you really fast, really quick.
We're in the freak zone, the freak off zone.
This the $5 Tuesday podcast.
Yeah, we're here today to record fucking one of Sean Diddy Combs'
First and last appearance?
I don't even know. What other credit does he have? I think that's his only one, maybe?
A couple Biggie videos back in the 90s.
Well,
Yeah,
damn.
and then he killed him.
Yeah, he killed him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It was so nice of him to let us, use his, space in his basement, though.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah.
It was really kind of him, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so if anybody has listened to any of us, any of our episodes before, this is the first time we're doing video.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like an Al-Qaeda fucking video.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for someone to put a rag over their head.
It looks like a live leak video, yeah.
Yo, dude, check out this shit I found.
These three guys are doing a movie podcast and they get beheaded. Fucking wild.
But I think it's just, it's perfect that the first time we did it was Get Him to the Greek.
Yeah.
It's only fitting.
It really is fitting. It's like poetry.
Yeah. I
It
think
rhymes.
the first memory that we have of watching this movie was in my house. It's probably one of the first times I remembered a comedy movie really sticking with me, aside from your typical Caddyshacks or I don't know, Dumb and Dumbers or whatever the fuck. But I think this is one of these comedy movies that are timeless.
And I feel like as we were watching it today that as an adult, I feel like I appreciated it a little bit more than I did when I watched it when we were younger. And I don't know if that's just because as an adult I can relate to it more or understand it more, or maybe there are just things I forgot about it that just I kind of clicked this time around.
The thing is though is what we were saying before, because we just watched it, it's this movie is almost a little too real.
Yeah.
Sprinkled in with a lot of comedic relief.
Like cartoon, hijinks almost.
Yeah. But it's just a little too real.
They said cut and they were like, Sean, that was a great scene. That was perfect. It's like you said it before.
And it's kind of a mockery almost of the music industry.
And celebrity.
Yeah,
just celebrities, that type of, they're he feels very pompous and he's doing God's work. An African child.
Well, it walks along, we were talking about, it kind of walks the edge of the knife of being sincere when it needs to be, but also being comedic when it needs to be. And I feel like a lot of people would either try to be fully comedic or fully sincere, and it's it just works somehow. It's able to strike that balance.
They let it breathe. They let the drama breathe, where it settles in for the viewer, and then they don't undercut it too fast with comedy.
And it goes back to shit that we say all the time. It's they just don't make comedy movies like this anymore.
This is, I guess, a higher budget comedy, a Judd Apatow comedy, but it's in the ballpark of mid-range movie budget wise, and they don't make those anymore. It's either $500 million or it's $2 million. That's the budget now.
I feel like it's more connection driven than it is budget driven, where it's the strength of the movie is that it always feels real. They go out of their way to kind of incorporate people from actual news outlets, actual movie or music producing roles and stuff like that.
This isn't him playing character.
This is what it would just be and people but it's not distracting, and that adds to the realism of it. Even the sets, we were talking about how when they're in Diddy's office, it's probably just at his record label, and they just filmed it in there because they wouldn't construct that because it was too elaborate, but it was probably just his record label, his office basically.
Just the Today Show set where they're
it was just the Today Show. Yeah,
that's the stage they probably use all the time.
Yeah. Should we explain what the plot is?
We even say that we were watching Get Into the Greek yet?
You did mention it briefly. We saw Get Into the Greek.
We chose Get Into the Greek to be the inaugural video episode.
That we, well, I was going to say that we all watched together, but we saw The Searchers together. But this is the first everybody hang out at one person's house in Diddy's dungeon,
Yeah.
and we watch the film, and he's really nice for letting us come down here.
I don't
And
get what all the fuss is about.
I don't either.
I
He's been
honestly-
a great host, honestly. It's a
Now-
little cold down here, but
It's a little cold, but you know what? Not an ounce of baby oil.
no one's
So-
tried to coerce me yet.
So I will not tolerate Diddy slander.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we were talking about. I was like, oh, perfect timing to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
He's getting canceled right now. Russell Brand has been canceled.
T.J. Miller.
T.J. Miller has been. I forgot he was in this movie for
Yeah.
like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
You turned me on to the fact that Jonah Hill's wife in this film is a Scientologist,
Yeah.
which I didn't know.
Yeah, Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's a really great movie to look back on.
Yeah. It's very problematic, like in retrospect.
Yeah.
But something that you said that's true, that was true then, but especially true now, is that it only works because it has like really problematic people in it, and it has people that like don't toe the line and they take it there, and it gets really like raunchy and extreme in some points, but it's like not offensive.
And like all these like actors, especially like Sean Combs, plays himself.
You just gonna say his
Essentially.
government name like that, dude.
Sean-
He's listening.
Yeah,
Like,
Puff. My bad. Puff plays himself. Russell Brand plays himself in
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah. There's like some other people that are kind of connected to it, like Aziz Ansari and
Nick Kroll's in it.
Kroll's
He makes
in
a
it.
surprise cameo in there.
Yeah, and I don't know if at
The guy who plays Draco Malfoy for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
he's in that too.
As the guy who plays Draco Malfoy.
Yeah,
Just playing himself.
And then Lars Ulrich is in it, just playing himself. Like, it's,
Yeah.
which I feel like kind of like what you're saying. If they did it now, they would have done some kind of weird, like, new age SNL, like new Ghostbusters type humor, like angle to it, sort of.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have like worked as well.
They wouldn't
And
have had
even
a rape scene in it.
they wouldn't have had
multiple rape scenes.
All played for comedic effect.
But even like the cameos with like Draco Malfoy and like Lars Ulrich, like I feel like that would have been annoying. It would have been more like in the new Anchorman movie, which I don't really find those like that funny. I never really like got them, but
Yeah.
they were like chock-a-block with cameos, but it's like for the laugh of the cameo. Like it's
Yeah.
like it's not like that in this movie. Like it's like, and it just works. Like it's like those people would be there sort
Yeah.
of, and like they're not trying to be like funny either. Like it's just they're very like just themselves. Like
Yeah.
and it's like almost like they're like, why am I in this movie, sort of, and it works.
Well, the plot of the movie is pretty much so the plot is Jonah Hill, who plays this guy who's just trying to make it into the business of like the music industry, and his whole job is to get Russell Brand, who is a struggling and like failing musician after like going through like this peak years and trying to revive his own career, and he's trying to get him back to do this one concert that could potentially like
Get him back on the map.
get him back on the map.
Yeah. He's washed up.
Yeah.
He's like a lot of like rock stars in the even now, but the mid 2000s,
Yeah.
mid 2010s.
And the opening frame to the movie is just him in Africa playing African Child.
over the opening credits, it's war footage. It looks like war footage. And you're like, what the? I totally forgot that the movie started with the African Child music video.
Yeah,
And-
which is like kind of disorienting, but then you kind of realize like where they're going with it.
It's incredible.
And
It's-
and then in retrospect, it's like what a great way to like start the movie. Like it's so unorthodox, but it's
Yeah.
like it's great. You know what I mean? Because in a lesser version of it, I feel like it would start with him like waking up in bed and there's like beer cans all around him or
You
something.
hear the
and then-
alarm bleeping. just
yeah,
like,
yeah. And then as the audience, you're like, oh, he's like has a
Washed-
problem. He's
Yeah.
washed
Yeah.
up. I get it, but it's like it. But then it also kind of like conveys to you that like he is not like completely washed up. Like he still kind of has some of that like star power,
He has
and it
a-
feeds into his ego as the
Yeah.
film goes on, kind of.
Well, I didn't pick up that he was like sober when he was with his ex-wife. She wasn't sober, got him basically off the wagon
Yeah,
because of that, because she was like, you're not fun anymore, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And now he's just like a back to his, like, he's even worse, I think,
Yeah.
at that point. Like, he's
Yeah.
like over the top with his drug abuse,
Mhm.
alcohol abuse. And then she leaves him.
yeah,
And I didn't get that in like the first, when I was like 12 watching this movie.
Mhm.
But I'm like, oh, okay, so like they even like sprinkle in like the setup of him being like kind of like damaged goods almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kind of like him being self-destructive.
Mhm.
And also kind of like trying to get back on the horse and then just fell again because of his relationships. And that is sprinkled in with his mom, with his ex-wife, with even Diddy to an extent. Like Diddy is the
moving force of this movie.
He's the amalgamation of the music industry for this rock star. Like, just get him here. I don't care what the fuck you have to do. You just drink. You
drug him up. Whatever you need to do. You just gotta mind fuck him.
Yeah.
You just gotta mind fuck him. That's all.
But it's weird that it strikes that balance where, like, if he had said what he says at the end of the film about like just get him pilled up and push him out on stage, like it's part of the business or whatever.
That's real.
It's real, and I feel like if he had said that earlier in the film, maybe it could have been played for a laugh. But it's interesting that he's able to say something that's kind of funny in a way like that. But like by the end of the film, it's like you're not laughing at that. Like it's like a little too close to home.
After he almost killed himself.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're like, oh fuck, like that. It's
but that's something that he probably would have said earlier on, and it would have been like, oh, haha, like being a rock star is funny. It's part of the life.
Yeah.
It feels like this is probably what would happen, and the scenarios are funny, and some of the little quips and stuff are like ad-libbed and like funny, obviously, but just the way they strike that balance. Even like the one scene where he's talking to his ex-wife, and she's saying that like you got sober and we kind of like figured everything out or whatever. She says like, you replaced drug addiction with meditation, but you'll always find something that's your heroin. Yeah. And I was like, that's a biting fucking line. Like, that's real. And I was like,
it's replace a vice with another vice.
Yeah, like you didn't actually get happy. You just like replaced, like one thing with whatever you already were addicted to.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it's able to like strike the balance. To his credit, like we were talking about when we were watching it, I was trying to think about like, is Russell Brand just like famous as like a Kim Kardashian famous, where he's just like, no one really knows why they're famous. Yeah. I mean, I guess with Kim K, like the sex tape and stuff, but like after that, like why are they famous? Why does anyone care? And I felt like Russell Brand was kind of the same, but to his credit, he acts pretty, like I'm not going to say it's like, Oscar worthy or anything, but like
a Scorsese.
It's not like a cinema moment, but like he does like a good job. When he needs to be serious, he's serious.
This is rock and roll, mate.
This is it, Aaron. This is rock and roll.
He delivers the most bad shit lines in context, most bad shit time to say that with such conviction and like
it's what he would say.
Rewatching it today, I also realized how real, like in real life, manipulative that character is to people, like to Jonah Hill, to Aaron, or whatever, to Jonah Hill. Yeah. Like that's like manipulation 101 in like abusive relationships and stuff like that. Like where he gets him into a situation and he's like, I'm helping you right now. Like you're stop being selfish. He's like, you got me into this mess in the beginning, in the first place. Like, and now it's like gaslight. Like you said, he's like gaslighting him almost.
And even when he's like dragging him around by the hand, there's a lot of scenes where he's just like, oh, come on, we're friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like, aren't you my friend? Like, are you going to disrespect me by like not drinking absinthe or whatever? Like, it's like, and then he does it.
Absinthe from 1900s or something like that.
And he's like, in that scene, he's just like, oh yeah, he's like already fucked up. And he's like, well, just have like a little sip or whatever. And if you notice, he like, the bartender hands him the bottle of it and he just like takes the top off.
You can see on the industry side manipulating him, and that's why, and like his other relationships, they're all manipulative. They're all getting something out of him, like squeezing whatever they need out of him. His dad, his mom is like not emotionally available at all.
No.
She's just there living in like his mansion basically.
Yeah.
His dad is trying to get him in on like a scheme of like opening up a bar and getting like he's like, what do you want, money, Dad?
Yeah.
I just feel like
he's like classic like what was MJ's dad? Joe Jackson? Right?
Yeah.
It's like classic Joe Jackson, like I made you, you know, and like I deserve all your money, and like same thing.
Where does your talent come from?
Brilliant. But it like plays it and doesn't like go too far into it and like beat you over the head with it where you're like, I get it. Like I feel like
well, it catches itself, and it's really to its credit, like when it gets a little too far in the realm of like being kind of like sincere and like kind of a little too real, they'll just add like a little joke. They'll pepper in like a little joke in there, or just like you were saying, like Russell Brand will say like something that it had to be ad-libbed or whatever, and it kind of adds some levity to it.
But it doesn't undercut what they're trying to say either.
No,
it doesn't make it the joke. It has that deep moment and then has a joke that are like separate but like intertwined in a nice way.
Yeah. Where like a bad example of how to do that is like whenever like DC is fucking up and they bring in like Josh Whedon, like because they're like, well, we did test screenings
Also
and people
canceled.
like he got canceled.
Did he?
Yeah, for like emotional abuse on sets.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was all about like fun and like laughing and stuff like that.
He's all about fun and laughing.
Well, that's the thing is like whenever they like panic because they're like, well, these test screenings, like people either hated it or they wanted to like kill themselves after they watched like 3-hour-long Justice League. Like they'll bring him in to like sprinkle in the jokes, but like as an at least an intelligent audience member, I feel like you watch it and you're like, I can tell where he's adding those things in.
Yeah.
But it's with this movie, it's never insulting. You know, it's always, and it's at least for me, and I'll speak for all of us, like it's a genuine laugh. Like it's like really fucking funny. And like a lot of scenes I knew were coming up, but there were other like little quips like that scene where he asked for the absinthe at the bar. Like there's 100% an ad-lib scene that they cut away from because Russell Brand like laughs and they cut it real quick. Yeah. Where like Jonah Hill, like there's a bartender walking by and he's just like, "Hello, love." And it's like
he like mimics what just happened.
Yeah. And there's like no reason for him to say that, and you know he did it to like make him laugh. Yeah. And you could see for a second he does.
You should invite him. Hello, love. Your dad should.
But as an audience member, it's like funny, and it's like. And
he's
and
like
then,
loosening up a little bit.
Yeah.
He's getting coaxed in.
Well, it's just that he's fucked up and he's just saying stupid shit. And like, but it works for the scene and it makes you laugh as an audience member. And there's so many moments like that in the movie that are just great. And it's like, it is like lightning in a bottle. It's like, they just, and like you were talking about how like Russell Brand portrays that so well because he is like Aldous Snow in a lot of ways.
Essentially, like he just plays out, like he is just playing like Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Like he is like that fucked up in real life to an extent, but like.
Yeah. But there's other characters, and that's to also the strength of the movie is they casted it very well. Like P. Diddy's just playing P. Diddy. Like he's just being a dickhead record executive that's just like demanding and like just crazy and like
he's
his
not
family's
an actor,
insane.
So he's like a little off-putting in the movie because he doesn't know how to act really.
Yeah.
But it works?
It works because it's so bizarre kind of. Like he's not he's not acting.
I think that's where it plays into the like the realism of like the movie.
These are insane people in this industry. They're all insane.
Yeah, I mean it's probably pretty like there's a lot of scenes that really like walk that line.
Let's get our mind fuck off.
It gets a little too real in retrospect, where like towards the end of the film, when they're hanging out in Vegas with Aldous Snow's dad, and they're all getting like fucked up or whatever, and they're making Jonah Hill like hang out with them and like take the Jeffrey or whatever. That part, there were a couple of scenes where it was almost like pretty cringe, where he was talking about like, well, he brought a prostitute over to Jonah Hill and was like this girl's gonna like sleep with you or like whatever.
Destiny,
yeah. And she's like kind of like strung out and like kind of just like, you know, like just hanging out, having fun at the party. It's like, this is probably, like, he's probably done this before, like, not in a film, you know?
Yeah.
This is like surreal.
And there's, like, some other stuff that he says where it's just like, ooh, like, it's like, he's not playing a character. It's not a character piece.
No, it's stopped being a character piece. This is real life now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't make comedies anymore at all, really. If they do, they're like...
You'll have, like,
they're like
your...
Netflix.
Yeah, you have, like... I think where it started to fall off is like the Bridesmaids movies started getting introduced, and then you have like your rebooted versions of like Ocean's 11, where it's an all-female cast, or Ghostbusters. I'm like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah.
Like, these are comedies that in their own time held up, so it didn't need it to be revisited at all.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't any way that you can make the first Ghostbusters better.
No. And not to mention the fact, like, that they're rebooting those, but like you said, like, if you go back and watch them, like, the comedy in those still, like, holds up. Yeah. And there's also an edge to it that I think any great comedy has some kind of edge to it. Like, you know, The Holidays were just recently, and, like, Christmas Vacation's one of my favorite movies, and, like, that's a comedy, but the edge to it is, like, everyone can relate to hating their family in, like, some way, and, like, hosting your family for the holidays
Hating
and
your
stuff.
job.
Yeah, and that
Hating your
too.
boss.
And like with this movie, like with Get Into the Greek, like in a way, like especially his relationship like with his wife and like just the certain habits of like the manipulation of certain characters and stuff, it's like what makes it so great is that it is written intelligently and you can relate to it as an audience. It's not just like cheap gags, and it's like
it's not like it's like when I think of like movies like today, it's like I just think of like Marvel humor.
Yeah.
It's just like you're trying to push like a plot.
Yeah.
And you have like cutscene of like a shitty interaction for comedic relief.
Yeah.
And then like, all right, back to the plot.
Yeah.
Like it's not like that. The comedy is within the plot. So.
And like you were saying, like you found something funny that wasn't really called attention to in the movie, like the absinthe bottle. Like he's like, "Oh, we'll just have a little sip," and he gives him the whole bottle. Which is not really like I could see like in someone in lesser hands.
It would be like this big, and like they'd like kick it, like hold it with their feet,
and they would they would like do a cut in or like a cut to it.
Yeah,
kind of like like he's gonna pour a lot.
Jonah Hill would be like, "Holy cow!"
And then like a deceiving reaction from all this like oh, I'm gonna pour this in without him knowing, and it's like. No, it's just there. Like it just happens. Like you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need. I feel like there's a lot of beating over the head with a lot of.
Yeah, it's just it's just like comedies these days. Like they just play it too safe.
Yeah.
It's like there isn't that edge that you find in like comedies like Forgetting Sarah Marshall or like Get Him to the Greek. Like you don't see that these days.
No.
At all.
No.
And it's hard to find. I say it all the time. Like it's so hard to find like a good comedic movie these days.
Yeah.
Like with Get Him to the Greek, I'm I'm like crouched over, slapping my knee like Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, you're slapping the desk. I feel like if it had that edge as well, like this is kind of more of a commentary on just comedy as a whole in 2025, but like if it had that edge, I feel like there's a lot of modern comedians that feel like they're trying to do like a reprisal of like the old days where it's like you could say whatever you want, anything, because to me, comedy, like anything can be funny, but like the part of that gets lost, I feel like now, is that like it has to be funny. You can't just say like, Americans are stupid. Next bit, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's just like it's.
Well, that's trying to be a roast like someone who roasts people. Like, you gotta be really intelligent and have like a good.
You can't just be mean.
But that's the thing too, is like what you just said, like roasts in itself. Like when people do roasts anymore, they just like hire people. Like the thing that made roasts so funny back in the day, like for example, like when you had like the roast of Patrice O'Neill, and like it was his friends. It wasn't just like ex actor, whoever it was, and like you just fed him lines and tried to make it funny.
Yeah.
Like the thing that makes roast funny is like you're getting roast by the people that you love.
Yeah.
And that's not like, for example, the roast of Tom Brady. Who on that panel
knew him?
Yeah. Other than like, oh, this is a great name for to have for the roast or the roast.
A good get.
Yeah.
A good something
like it's not funny. Yeah. It's just not.
Yeah. Well, it's all micro produced now. Like so particularly produced. Like, oh, we need this person, this person, because like they bring in this demographic, they bring in this demographic. We need everybody to watch this.
Yeah.
Because it's $500 million to make. We need to make back our money.
But I just wonder if somebody. I mean, who knows? There could be some film out there I've never heard of or seen that exists nowadays that kind of strikes that balance of like having the hard edge that Get Into the Greek has, but not just having it for the sake of having it. Like, I feel like that's where comedy's at now, where it's like somebody's like, well, what, they said I can't joke about like someone's identity or something like that. Like, I'll watch this, I'm gonna make a joke about it. But it's like, it's serving the purpose of like dunking on somebody without actually thinking about like, is this a joke that everyone's gonna laugh at, or is this just me like trying to prove a point, you know? And so if they tried to make a movie like Get Him to the Greek now, would it just be like, I don't even know what it would look like, but if they really tried to make it funny. It would just be
so dumbed down.
Yeah, it'd either be dumbed down or it'd be trying too hard to make a point. Like, we're gonna put it in your face because everyone's soft and we have to make this point. But it's like, it's just not funny. You know what I mean? Like, at the core of it, it's just gotta be funny.
It either beats you over the head or it's just tasteless.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of the times when people like set out to make something like that.
Yeah.
It's like that's their goal, and that means like everything else comes secondary. Like the story comes secondary, the characters come secondary. This one is just the story came first, the characters came first, and then the hijinks was like sprinkled in naturally. Like it was, like you said, like the whole threesome scene. It was like it could have been like left out. Well, I was like, yeah, it could have been left out. It could have been like transposed to something else, like another situation, definitely. But I guess like they wanted to have both like it be so extreme that's like that's the main character's breaking point with Aldous Snow and his relationship there, and
for context, he tries to have a threesome with Jonah Hill's wife and him to like kind of like make amends with him in like a way.
But he's also manipulating just because he wanted a threesome, kind of. And then, but he like goes back and forth between like I'm doing this, and he's like devious, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, like I crossed a line or whatever. Yeah. And it's just like so, you're like this, this guy. You feel like Aaron. You feel like Jonah Hill. Like this guy is so fucking annoying, so fucked. Like you can't even be mad at him. Kind of. He's just like a crazy
there's
person.
something in there, but due to the circumstances of his life, like. It's gonna be hard to get it out of him. But I mean, he says it in that scene when he's like at the pool. Like there's a scene in the movie where Aldous Snow like finally like just tries to kill himself basically, and Jonah Hill in that scene he's talking to him about like, oh, do you really like care about me? Like you're not my friend or whatever. And he's like, I'm here, and it's like that's. For someone like Russell Brand's character, like that's the most he could ask for at that point. Like just someone who's there. Yeah, that's the closest he had to like a
not
real
getting something out of him.
Which I mean is like on paper that's ridiculous. That like from one scene they go from him trying to force him and his wife and having a threesome with them to then having
a
heart.
Playing like what are they playing in the background? The music.
Mariah Carey. And they're trying to have like he's trying to make amends, but it's ridiculous. And then they just have a heartfelt scene after it where it's like, and he's like crying, and it's like coming from a real place and sincere, never feels insulting.
And like the little things you were noticing this time watching through, like.
They always have a drink in their hand. For the entire movie. As soon as Russell Brand's character is introduced, they are always drinking for the entire movie. There's a drink somewhere in proximity.
It's so solid. It's a solid movie. It has something to say, and it's funny as fuck.
That's all we want.
That's all you want. You just want a movie to laugh at or to be invested in the characters. There's no characters anymore.
Yeah.
There's no picking things out. There's no. What happened to movies? What happened to them? The goddamn shit on the fucking Netflix now. What are you talking about? Netflix and the Hulu. Well.
Till next time.
We're
gonna work out the kinks. I don't know what like the clipping of this video version's gonna look like.
What if you see this, help.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll make it out of here too.
I don't know.
But whatever Frankenstein monster Sean puts together, like it'll be. We're working out the kinks, but we knew if it came together, it had to be getting to the Greek. So I mean, whatever technical difficulties, I know that you'll put something together that'll be.
And it was a joy just to watch it again.
It was.
There will be no exchanging of hostages for us, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, we're going to be staying in Russia.
There will be no pardons.
No, zero pardons.
Maybe in the next 4 years. I don't know.
But we'll be coming to you live from here on Live Leak every
on crazyfuckingvideos.com.
Memory card's full. I think that's going to work now.
That one's still recording, though.
Is it getting dimmer in here? We're not going anywhere, brothers.
Kind of forgot what we were doing.
Did he cut the feed?
Yeah. I mean, look around. This is a test run.
I don't even know where the fuck we are. I was promised a music career.
Where is the... There's no camera people.
No.
It's us. It's just us and you.
The audience, whoever the fuck that is, dude.
Yeah. Live Leak viewers.